In recent days, social media has been flooded with reports about Alonso either moving to Red Bull or preparing to retire. This was sparked by a cryptic tweet from Spanish TV journalist Alberto Fabrega, who hinted at a significant story emerging in the paddock. While Fabrega never stated what the allegation was about, it sparked speculation that it was about a major shakeup in the driver market, including Alonso. Could Alonso be on the move? And what does he have to say about the rumours? Let's dive in. While news of Alonso racing somewhere other than Aston Martin next year has been completely denied, other expectations were that Alonso, a two-time world champion, was on the verge of retiring due to Aston Martin's fall in form during 2023. But the double world champion made it plain ahead of the Brazilian Grand Prix that he was displeased with the crazy conjecture. Although Alonso was not named in the initial tweet, he was mentioned in several stories published in reaction to it, and he has since been the focus of wild and relentless speculation on social media. And Fernando Alonso has now promised consequences following the cryptic rumour-mongering in the Formula One paddock that suggested he would jump from Aston Martin to Red Bull. He's not taking it lightly. So what will Alonso do, and what were his thoughts on the matter? Let's find out. On Thursday at the Brazilian Grand Prix, Alonso made it obvious that he did not like anyone stirring up trouble, even going so far as to say, "I will make sure that there are consequences." Alonso, at 42, is nearing the end of his first season with Aston Martin, a year that has exceeded all reasonable expectations. It all started with Alonso as Red Bull's main rival, and he has 7 podium finishes. That's only one less than Perez has achieved in the same Red Bull that Max Verstappen has dominated the championship with. There is little question that Alonso is still driving at a high level, while Perez is under continual scrutiny at the tail end of a season that began brilliantly before fading miserably. He is hobbling to the finish line in second place in the Drivers' Championship after colliding with Charles Leclerc's Ferrari at the first corner in his home race last weekend. Though Red Bull has maintained its intention for Perez to drive in 2024 because he's under contract, and this is commonly assumed to be the organization's choice, it is also widely assumed that Perez might be replaced if the organization loses trust. But due to all these rumors, Christian Horner's recent comments regarding Fernando Alonso have resurfaced. With each terrible outcome from Perez, a new wave of conjecture and innuendo flies his way. It was no different after his first corner DNF in his home race last weekend. In the days that followed, social media was replete with chatter of paddock speculations, which grew to the point that Alonso was sensationally connected with the Red Bull seat. But if you go back to early October, you'll notice that Horner isn't too keen on what would be an explosive lineup, with Max Verstappen and Fernando Alonso. Asked if he would ever consider the likes of Lewis Hamilton or Fernando Alonso as his second driver, Horner told Sky Sports' Martin Brundle, "If you put 2 extreme alphas in a team, it'll tear the team apart. So you always want to achieve, I think, the right balance. That's one of the biggest lessons I've learned." And Alonso, who is under contract with Aston Martin until at least 2024, would be an expensive and unexpected contender if Red Bull were to fire Perez after all, which according to Horner isn't going to happen. It always looked like an extremely implausible possibility, and Alonso has categorically denied it as well. Just rumors, normal paddock rumors from people that just try to make fun of it and gain some followers and these kinds of things, Alonso said. But I'm not into that game. Alonso appears to have paid attention to who said or wrote about this topic. When he stressed that he was not enjoying what had transpired, he made it clear that no one was present for his written media session in the Interlagos paddock on Thursday. Even in this room, I appreciate that all of you are journalists, professional people that have been in Formula One for so many years, and you gain your respect. And this is how it should be, he continued. So all the rumours are coming from people that are not in this room. They're just here to make fun, and I think it's not funny when they play with anything. Alonso has often stated that 2023 has been a super season, but adds that the squad has not been as competitive as we would have liked, and that no one is happy with recent performances. Though the overarching storyline for Alonso and Aston Martin in 2023 has been quite favourable, the team's current direction has been challenging for some months. The early success has faded into midfield oblivion. The squad scored 175 points in the first 9 events, but has only added 61 points in 10 events afterward. Various improvements have not performed as planned, either by causing bad side effects in terms of car characteristics, or by not delivering as much performance as hoped. As a result, Aston Martin has been overturned by Mercedes and Ferrari, as was widely predicted earlier in the year, as well as McLaren and, to a lesser extent, Alpine in recent races. This slump in form has been particularly visible in the previous 2 weekends, when the team has chosen pit lane starts in order to make setup adjustments for both cars in Austin and only Lance Stroll's in Mexico. We're obviously not as competitive as we want it, he said. And we all try to get to our best level, which is obviously not the one that we're showing now. But we are analysing some of the upgrades that we bought lately. Here in Brazil, we have a sprint format, so maybe it is a more traditional weekend for us, not experimenting as much as the last two. Obviously, we're not happy. Mike Crack's not happy, no one is happy with the current form. But at the same time, I said a few races ago, this team was 250 people 2 years ago. Now we're in this transition to be hopefully a contender for the future with 800 people and a new factory. 7 podiums this year, 200 points more than last year. All these kinds of things which are not the current form. We should not be happy, but we cannot even be too dramatic about the situation when this 2023 campaign has been a super season for us. Both drivers lamented a lack of grip and trust in the car during the meaningless Mexico weekend for Aston Martin. Alonso claims that utilizing a combination of old and new floor this weekend in Brazil is part of the answer, as he has a clear idea and some better conclusions of the package and which parts are working better in certain circuits, in certain corners. His expectation is that this weekend will be simpler, but he has suggested that there would be more trials at the final round in Abu Dhabi. We've had some more issues now than maybe at the beginning of the year, he said. The grid is tighter now, so at the beginning, even if the car felt not perfectly comfortable, you back off 1/10 of a second and you're still P5 or whatever. Now if you back up 1/10 of a second, you lose 3 or 4 positions. We are much more on the limit now. We have a sprint format again here. It's going to hopefully be a little bit calmer in terms of changes, setup experiments, all the data that we try to give to the factory. Hopefully this weekend is a little bit more normal, and then we obviously have Las Vegas, a new circuit, which we will try to do as many laps as possible for the driver more than anything. And then Abu Dhabi could be a little bit more of a test again. Alonso seems to be full of fire to end the season as well, to get ready for next year. But it wasn't just Fernando Alonso to Red Bull speculation that fueled the rumour mill this week. Retirement was also mentioned. Aston Martin's poor performance this season has lent credence to the notion that Alonso, like Sebastian Vettel, may decide that this long-term project with the firm is not for him. However, in the most recent episode of Sky F1's podcast, well-connected reporter Craig Slater provided a more accurate picture of what lies ahead for the two-time world champion. Can we get rid of the elephant in the room, which is Fernando Alonso potentially going to Red Bull next year to partner Max Verstappen? Slater remarked on Sky F1's podcast. My understanding is that is a non-starter. That's not going to happen. As much as they admire Alonso at Red Bull and what he can do, he's not above Daniel Ricciardo as far as I understand it, as an option to drive for that team next year. This is not coming officially from the team or anything like that, but it's been out there on the internet and that it's not going to happen, as I understand that. From what I can gather, some senior well-placed people have told me that maybe Alonso's management have been doing their due diligence again and have been assessing are there any other potentially better options for him next year. And perhaps that has been inflated into a he's going to take Perez's seat rather than Ricciardo is. But I have it on pretty good authority, there's no chance of that. The other question though, is he going to retire Alonso? Slater went on to say. Is he so pessimistic about Aston next year that he might not carry on? As far as I understand it, the appetite for Aston Martin to continue with Alonso is still pretty strong too. Nor do I understand that there's any prospect of Lawrence Stroll selling up and quitting either, which has been a popular line of online exploration. So I think most likely he will continue with Aston Martin next year. So in the end, no moves at all. But it will be interesting to see if Alonso will really go after the reporter that started all these rumours. But what if? What if Alonso did go to Red Bull? Would you have liked to see that? Would you have supported the move? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and enjoy the Brazilian Grand Prix this weekend.